understand, adopt, and apply strategies and technology in their practices to make them more profitable and more efficient. We also build websites and brands and things of that nature. A third hat that I wear is I still run an accounting firm in Bloomington, Indiana. So we're a CPA firm of 11 people. We do a little over $2 million in revenue each year. And as some of you may know, I co-authored a book with a guy named Michael Gerber, and Michael is the author of the traditional E-Myth book and a number of other books, but I co-authored one called the E-Myth Accountant. And the E-Myth Accountant is really geared around this concept of building a practice, a well-oiled machine, a practice that really runs more like a business as opposed to just an extension of each of us as employees or partners. And as I mentioned, I'm here today with one of my staff members from RootWorks, Sean Hanthorn. So Sean, welcome today.
Thank you.
Sean is, he's the director of our education services for RootWorks. We have nearly 400 firms that are members of RootWorks that we help move their firms forward. And Sean sort of manages our discussion group. He does a lot of coaching calls with them, and does a lot of virtual staff training and leadership training, and coordinates our education materials. Does that pretty much summarize it, Sean?
I think that does a pretty good job, yep.
So with that said, you're busy from morning to night, right?
Right.
There's no challenges in helping small firms sort of understand and apply technologies today, that's for sure. Well, Sean, let's spend a little bit of time and just sort of talk about our objectives today. Our first objective today is we really want to take some time and discuss the need to build, for building a business model from the inside out inside your firm. Because without really a proper model, practitioners struggle to implement an effective collaboration strategy. And we'll get into that a little bit more here in just a bit. And then we want to learn why. I mean, it seems to me like it's sort of a natural progression if we're going to build a business model that should be one size fits all, but that's not necessarily the case. And so we're going to talk a bit about that. And then we're also going to really try to gain an understanding of the importance that Paperless really plays in collaboration or in a collaborative firm. So, Sean, does that sound like a realistic thing to do for the next about 50 minutes or so?
I think we can finish that in 50 minutes, yep.
Good. Well, let's go ahead and kick off about this need to build a business model. And, what I find, Sean, and you talk to hundreds of firms, Sean, on a regular basis. What I find is that firms have a tendency to, well, as a practitioner, we probably came out of maybe a big firm, a small firm, or just came out of school, and we opened an accounting practice. And before we knew it, we were as busy as we could possibly be, and we were in the firm doing the work every day, and we were doing whatever came into the office in whatever form or fashion came into the office. Does that sound like what you kind of experience when you're talking to firms?
I experience that with pretty much every firm I talk to. Most of them are just doing whatever comes in the door.
So if somebody brings them a backup of this file, or they bring them a shoebox of that file, or this person, sends you digital copies, this person sends you paper copies, whatever the case might be, there's no rhyme or reason to that. Would you say that's true?
I would definitely say that's true. Yeah, there's no consistency across the client base.
So, I mean, Sean, the challenge I find with that, and you've worked with me, gosh, for a long time now, I think the challenge that you and I both find with that is how do you put a business structure around something that has no structure? I mean, how do you put a collaborative model around something that has no structure? Maybe that makes more sense. Is that what you think?
Yeah, you just have to pick someplace and start, which I'm sure we're going to talk about.
we are. So, one of my favorite authors of all time, and a gentleman I had the opportunity to actually meet and have lunch with a time or two, was a guy named Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Sean, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. The 7 habits. Oh, you already did. Never mind. The 7 habits. Habit number 2, I believe, is begin with the end in mind. And I think, Sean, this is where a lot of firms are really challenged. They they hop into practice, or they hop into a little consulting business, or whatever the case might be. They just start doing stuff, and then they just keep doing it, and they try to get busier doing it, and they really never try to step back and figure out what it is that they're trying to accomplish. What's the end in mind here? An example would be, is the end in mind that I want to do all the work myself? Is the end in mind I want to build a practice that's based solely on my skill set? Chances are, Sean, would you agree, most firms don't really even think about that? They just start doing things.
I would say most firms are just working. Yes.
Just working day in and day out.
Right.
I want to take a moment and share what it's like to have a strategic vision as a firm, and how that strategic vision can really be the guiding principle for everything we do in our practice, and certainly our collaboration strategy. So, Sean, let's take a look at Root & Associates' strategic vision, and let's go ahead and go to the next one. There we go. So this is my firm's strategic vision, and I want to kind of go through this because I think this is critically important, probably the most important step that we ever took as a firm in Root & Associates, was to define what we were going to do, how we're going to do it, and who we were going to do it for. So I'm going to start out by saying, our firm will provide outsourced CFO, accounting, payroll, and tax services to service-based businesses. And outsourced CFO to me is really a nice word for bookkeeping. We do a lot of bookkeeping for clients. We pay the bills, do their payroll, do all those sort of things, record their deposits, things of that nature. So what we're saying is, we start out by saying, okay, this is the work we're going to do. We're going to do outsourced CFO, accounting, which I traditionally called write-up work, which is sort of maybe managing the QuickBooks file at the end of the month, creating financial statements, things like that. Payroll and tax services. And then I get very specific and say, we're going to do this for service-based businesses. And so that's my first foray into being really specific here. And then I go on to say, we will utilize advanced technologies to support a real-time data sharing delivery model and provide ultimate convenience for staff and clients. So what I'm saying here is, I want a collaborative model. I do not want to take clients on, nor do I want any clients that does not fit my model here, which is I want to collaborate in real time. We want to say we will not accept clients that do not fit our defined core business model. So if you're not a service-based type business, and that's a pretty broad swipe, Sean, don't you think? I mean, service-based covers an awful lot of things.
It does cover a lot of industries, yeah.
Right. But, notice I'm leaving out manufacturing, construction, all the things that I'm terrible at, and that our firm's not that great at. We don't have core competencies in. We go on to say, then, we will provide individual income tax services to individuals that fit our defined return types. So, Sean, back in my old days, I would take on international clients. I would take on things that I just had no idea what I was doing, 990s, 5500s, all those sort of things. When we took the time to actually develop our business model, we got rid of all the things, all the client types that did not fit our core services, and also the kind that did not adopt sort of our collaborative strategy. It says we'll provide individual income tax services to individuals that fit our return types. Our income tax services will also utilize technologies that allow our firm to deliver services in the most efficient manner, which means that maybe we want to gather data digitally up front. Maybe we want to put organizers out digitally up front. Maybe we're going to e-file every return. Maybe instead of giving paper copies out anymore in the tax process, we're going to put them back on client portals, things like that. So we want to use technologies to do these in the most efficient manner. Note that in this situation, I didn't stipulate the manner, I just said the most efficient manner. We highly value our firm's image, including overall office appearance and web presence, and will strive to put our best foot forward with every interaction. And what I'm saying here is we, in this collaborative environment, we believe the web is incredibly important, and we want to look like a real company. We want to operate like a real company, and we want our brand to be very representative of that. And we value work-life balance and consistently strive to maintain it. So, Sean, you've known me for a long time, and you've watched my firm evolve in Bloomington. And, Sean, you live up near Detroit. Would you say, I mean, you see how we operate. I mean, you're in my office an awful lot of the time when you come down. But would you say we operate within these principles from what you see?
I definitely would. Being so, close within the firm, I do know that, clients that don't fit the model are not part of the client base. And
But
you do use
would you,
technology as much as possible.
well, when you compare us having, I mean, a lot of people would say, why you really limit your practice? And yet you see by that limiting nature how much we actually grow, because we go much deeper into each of the segments that we do work for, because we become really specialists. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. The people that your staff members know what they're doing. They don't have to go outside of the box a lot of the times with clients, because they're all similar type.
So Sean, you've seen me run through this next slide a number of times as we've done sessions around the country. Excuse me. What I want to do is sort of take our listeners through how you go about how I went around about developing our vision statement. And I want to get through this real quick, Sean, but I want to give everybody an idea how we do this. What I did was I just started by listing all my service offerings. Very first step, just list everything that we did as a firm. And when I did this, I mean, I listed things. We used to do audit services. We did international tax returns. We did all kinds of stuff. We did it for all kinds of industries. But what I did, I started out by making a list of all that stuff. And then I stepped back and I said, okay, of these things that we do, what are we pretty good at in our firm? And I really kind of whittled it down. I said, okay, we're really good at doing bookkeeping, for sure. We're good at doing write-up services. We've been doing it for a long time. We're good at that. We're really good at payroll. We're good at 1040s, 1120Ss, and 1065s. At the time when I whittled this down, Sean, I mean, we were doing 5500s, we were doing 1190s, like I said, we were doing audit work, and so we were a little bit all over the place. So the first thing I did is I sort of whittled my services down. And I believe everybody will see where I'm coming from. This will make sense here in just a little bit. But after I whittled my services down, I said, okay, of these things that we're pretty good at, what things are we really great at in our firm? And who are we great at doing those for? And this is really sort of getting to that idea of creating a niche. And what I said was, okay, we are really great at doing bookkeeping write-up services for service-based businesses and restaurants. I mean, that's really who we're really good at this for. My staff has great competencies in that area. I have good competencies in that area. We're good at 1040s, the type that we do, and we're really good at 1120S and 1065 for service-based businesses and real estate partnerships. And that sort of became our driving force. That you can see in my vision statement, the first thing I say is we'll provide bookkeeping, write-up, payroll, and so on for service-based businesses. And this is where that sort of statement came from. And what I was thinking was, if I could do those kind of services all day long for clients, what would that result be in my firm? And I decided it would be, we're really an efficient firm. So with that, Sean, let's go on to creating a paragraph. So now that I know what services that our firm is really great at and what we have really core competencies in, what I wanted to do was say, okay, in my ideal world, if I were going to deliver bookkeeping and write-up services for service-based businesses and restaurants, so I'm giving you an example. I picked one of my services and I'm writing a concise paragraph about that service. I said, okay, if we're going to do bookkeeping and write-up services for service-based businesses and restaurants, what would be the most ideal way to provide those and take out all the pain points that we were currently experiencing? And again, keep in mind, I did this a number of years ago. And what I said was we would provide outsourced CFO services to professional service firms and restaurants. Services would be offered completely online. So what I was really getting at was, I didn't want backups anymore. I didn't want QuickBooks backups or Peachtree backups or backups of any kind anymore. I wanted a collaborative piece of accounting software which allowed the client to interact with us in a digital paperless, and that's really key, a paperless environment. During the entire process, our clients would have real-time access to their information whenever they needed it. So I essentially said, okay, in this outsourced CFO world, I want a collaborative environment. I want it to all be paperless, and I want everybody to access it via my website. And so I sort of defined how we were going to deliver that service. So does that make sense so far, Sean?
I think so. Yep.
All right, I just want to make sure I'm not nuts yet. All right, so then after I defined that for each of my areas of greatness, or what we thought we were great at in our firm, I then had to go find the technologies to support that. Okay, and so I said, well, if this was the most ideal way to deliver a particular service, whether it was 1040 or payroll or whatever the case might be, what technologies do I not have today? What systems do I not have today? What processes do I not have today to do those services? And so I said, and again, I'm using one example here. I need to use a portal solution that integrates with SaaS-based or hosted accounting software to capture vendor bills and income. I need to implement client portals which will reside on our firm's website to provide clients full access 24/7 to their financial information, so that we're offering a completely collaborative environment. So with that said, Sean, let's go ahead and go to our next slide on strategic vision. What I essentially did was I said, okay, today, and again, this was probably over 10 years ago for me, I didn't have a single database in my firm. I didn't have standardized processes and procedures. My software wasn't necessarily integrated. One client was doing things one way, another client was doing things another way, another client was giving me an old backup, all those sort of things. And I said, okay, if I were to create a business model, and oftentimes I kind of liken this to going into Starbucks. Sean, you've heard me say that 100 times.
Right.
But when I go into Starbucks, I can't order a cheeseburger and I can't order a Diet Coke because it's not what they do. And what Starbucks has done, and I'm not suggesting that we create, a fast food or a Starbucks type model in a service-based business, but what we can learn from them is they created a business model and they said, here's how we do this, and we're going to do it like this all day long. We're going to do it to the very best of our ability. And again, we're not going to sell Diet Cokes and we're not going to sell cheeseburgers. And so what I wanted to do with my firm was have a business model that said, this is how Root and Associates functions. We're going to offer services completely online. We're going to be, any client we take on is going to fit into our model. And I'm not suggesting anybody's model be like mine, but whatever you design your model to be, the very first step in all of this, in being collaborative or being more efficient or being more effective, is to define your business. Again, Sean, you've been around this now and around me for quite some time, and you've seen a lot of firms that we've taught to do this. What impact have you seen come from those firms for taking the time to build their business model?
Most of the firms that I've worked with that have actually built the model and implemented that model into their office have seen staff productivity go way up, and also their overall revenues have went up because they're not doing things that take so much time that they're not good at. They're working, less, essentially not working as hard at getting things done.
Sean, you've heard me say this before too. CCH did this study 2 or 3 years ago, and one of the key components that came out of this study was that staff people in firms spend about 40% of their time looking for information, and about 35% of the time they don't find it. And I believe the majority of that comes from not having consistent processes and procedures and ways of doing things in a firm and a consistent business model. And if you just think about that amount of waste that goes through a firm, it's a significant number if you do the math. So Sean, let's go on to the next slide. And I guess the question I always like to ask firms is, if you had taken the time to define what it is that you're really great at, and you took the time to define the systems, how you were going to deliver those services, and you took the time to market to that, and your staff came in every single day and worked in this firm in a finely tuned machine, what would the result be? And like you just said, Sean, they're more efficient. I believe employees are happier. I believe clients are happier, and I believe that you end up working less and making more money in the end. And it sounds like you would agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
So the key to building this collaborative model is not to, I believe the key is to not keep doing things the way you've always done them. Because if you do not start with this need for a model first, I just don't know, Sean, how you ever get there. If I let a client bring me a backup file, how do I collaborate on that? You know what I mean?
Right, right. You definitely have to pick put it together first before you just start moving along. So the biggest part is actually defining what you want to do.
But most firms never take that step. It's tough. It takes a lot of time. I wouldn't say it's painful. It just takes work and effort to define the system. And then you've got this process, this challenge that you have all these clients, customers, and sort of the legacy systems that you've always had. How do I move them forward? The easiest ones, as you and I have always talked about, is every new client can go into the system that you define. And then there's certainly a group of your clients that buy into whatever it is that you tell them to do. They're what we would consider low-hanging fruit. You can move them into your model. But what's going to happen over time is you're going to end up with clients that are not great fits for your firm. And I'm never an advocate of just firing clients, but you have to kind of be okay with, as your firm evolves, growing in the model that you've designed, and not allowing the legacy clients to drive your future. Let's, Sean, go on to the next slide and talk a little bit about this. This slide's, hopefully I can explain it well enough for everybody will understand it. But, one of the things we've done in RootWorks is we've trademarked an acronym. We call it Back Office Support System, and we call it a Back Office Support System Model. And essentially that's our bookkeeping platform, payroll platform, and so on and so forth. It's a model that is collaborative in nature all the time, using online payroll, online client accounting, all that kind of stuff. The goal for me and Root and Associates in my firm is that I don't want to care whether you're an annual client, a monthly client, or a daily client. If everything is in a collaborative environment and we are using the consistent principles across, so even if it's an annual client, and I understand and I hear from a lot of firms, but what about the client that has their own proprietary software? I understand that, I get that. There's going to be some outliers in this, but the majority of your clients are not that way, more than likely. The majority of them are probably using QuickBooks. So whether they're doing that and giving you something on an annual basis, or they're doing their work and giving it to you on a monthly basis, or they're doing their work, or you're doing their work for them on a daily basis, if we can take all that information, whether it is a QuickBooks file or it's QuickBooks Online or whatever the case might be, and we move it out, keep it in that collaborative environment where the firm and the client has access. Who does the work becomes just sort of semantics. I mean, if the client wants to pay all their bills throughout the year and they don't need a monthly financial statement, all they need is an annual corporate return, or maybe they want you to do payroll, they're an annual client. But if you have access to that information in real time, you can, assuming that the government gets Form 4562 out, which is a big assumption, you can start working on that return as soon as the year's over, because you're not waiting on anything. And if they make that all their stuff paperless and they keep it out in the cloud, even better, because then when it comes time to do depreciation, you can have access to all the information you need. You don't have to shoot an email to somebody and say, oh, by the way, I see you added an asset and I need to put that in our depreciation. That puts you back in the waiting game all the time. What we have to do as firm owners is take control of what the flow is like and have access to information. And that's really the heart and soul of a collaborative accounting model, or a collaborative firm, really. So, Sean, you've seen this model work a number of times. What advice do you have for, really our listeners today on implementing, annual, monthly, and daily sort of in this sort of boss system?
So my recommendation really is to pick 1 to 2 methods that you're going to deliver this in, because essentially these can all be delivered within one method or a couple methods. Pick a couple that work for your firm, and that way staff only knows a couple ways that this happens, no matter if it's an annual, monthly, or daily client. You do it the same way. And if you pick just a couple methods, then staff don't have to know 20 different ways to do something. It makes the workflow efficient through the office, and you just become really good at handling clients all in the same way.
So, Sean, when you say pick a couple of methods, you may say, I might say, well, hosted QuickBooks is the way to go. And, well, it might not be the way to go for every single client. Why if, I have a great new young startup, 30-year-old graphic designer who loves QBO. And so what you're saying, Sean, is pick a couple of methods. Maybe QBO is the right fit for a certain section of your clients. Maybe it's hosted. The hosted QuickBooks is the right section for another part of your clients. Is that what you mean?
That's what I mean. Yeah. Don't take the, we have 3 clients on Peachtree and we got to keep that, and then 20 on hosted, and all the different methods, because then nothing becomes standardized across. Everything
right.
is.
So you got 50 clients that bring you backups. You got 20 on QBO. You've got 10 in hosted, and at the end of the day, you might end up with a mess. That's what you're saying.
Right. Yep.
So the starting point is collaboration. Let's get it into the cloud, whether it's desktop QuickBooks in a hosted environment or QBO. That's what you're saying, and I would agree with you. And then after that, we want to talk about, the need to be paperless. But the key is to build the model, then build the system, as Sean just said. And let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Sean. But, one size doesn't necessarily fit all. Like we said, like Sean said, maybe you pick two platforms that you're going to support, and you support those, but you can't support 10. And you also need an application that can kind of scale up and scale down. QBO might not be for every customer, so you need something else. So maybe that's QuickBooks Enterprise, maybe it's QuickBooks Pro or Premier. So, Sean, let's go to the next slide. This is something that you and I talk about quite often. And it's a graphic that we designed at RootWorks. And so as I try to explain this whole concept of building a next-generation accounting firm, excuse me, it starts with this really having the strategic vision, the slide I put up really early on, articulating my strategic vision. So catching a glimpse of what you want this collaborative or you want your next-generation accounting firm to look like, that's really the starting point. And this is really progressive in nature as the way this slide works. And I don't believe that you can get the cart before the horse here. I think that if you start out to the top right at firm growth and you haven't taken the time to get your strategic vision right, and you haven't taken the time to define your business model made up of whatever your pieces and parts are, and you haven't taken the time to build your brand awareness and the service offerings that you're going to do, then firm growth should not come. Because if you just go for firm growth to start with, which is a natural tendency of firms, Sean, what I see is firms just make a bigger mess than what they had the day before. What do you think?
I would, yeah, I've actually dealt with firms that have started at the top right and didn't have the infrastructure pieces or anything put together, and let's just say it doesn't go over very well. Things don't.
Right.
They end up having a whole lot of mess to clean up.
Well, if your goal is just to grow the firm and grow it any way you can, you're going to keep getting a lot more of what you got probably, which is you're working way too much and not profiting as much as maybe you should. So this idea of starting with this vision, and then we've kind of laid out in our model here different pieces and parts, whether it's your paperless tax workflow, your firm infrastructure. I mean, are you going to have servers on premise? You're going to have them in the cloud. What's your paperless payroll process like, and what applications are you using for that? What's your paperless collaborative accounting model look like? Is it going to be hosted QuickBooks and you're going to use the QuickBooks attached feature or Smart Vault or Bill.com, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. How are your clients going to collaborate with you? Are you going to have a great website that provides all this online access capabilities straight from your firm's website? In my case, I picked up the name, or I purchased the name Root.com a number of years ago for my domain. And so all my clients' employees come to Root.com to get about everything that we do, their tax returns, financial statements. Client employees get their paycheck stubs there. So I'm building this whole collaborative model. And then another piece is your firm image, your brand, your logo, how you portray your firm, and then the practice management component of your firm. All these pieces and parts come together to make the system that you're creating for your firm. And Sean, you've seen us do this a number of times for firms. And if you'll take the time to do the hard work, you create the vision, then you build out the system, don't you think that at that point you're ready now to start telling people what you do?
And the growth is a lot easier because you've got the infrastructure to take care of it. Yes.
Well, and then the key to that, too, Sean, is not taking on clients that don't fit the model that you do. One, the model that you define under, where we have it sort of circled there, define your business model. So you don't take on clients that do not fit that. So if somebody comes in and says, oh, by the way, I have Peachtree and it's a backup, and that's the only Peachtree backup client you're going to have, chances are, if you can't move them into your model, you should pass on that opportunity. Don't you think?
I think that is a very accurate statement.
Okay, Sean. Let's go ahead and move on. And this next slide is how I like to think about my firm. If anybody's read The E-Myth Accountant, you know that I spend a lot of time talking about this idea in that book of working on your firm instead of in your firm. And one of my partners in RootWorks a long time ago, at that time we were just friends, and he used to tell me to take a look at my business as if it was inside of a snow globe. So, Sean, you remember the old Santa Claus or winter snow globes, and you can kind of shake them up and all that kind of stuff. Well, that was a really pretty good graphic for me. What I try to do in running Root & Associates, as you well know, Sean, because you see me do it all the time, is look down at my, and I don't mean that in a negative sort of way. I look down at my firm as if I am molding something or looking inside this snow globe, and I'm tweaking all these processes and procedures and software applications. As you know, Sean, I'm testing the applications almost on a daily basis to continue to tweak my model, right?
Yep, definitely.
Much to your dismay many times, because I'm like, Sean, how does this? But, once you create a model, it doesn't stand still. New things come along all the time that I don't necessarily say let's put it into the model, but we certainly want to continue to look for ways of being more efficient, because vendors are coming out with new stuff every day, designed, not always, but usually designed to try to make our lives a little bit easier as it relates to technology at some point. So I think this is a good illustration of how to think about running your business and working on your business instead of in your business. So think about this idea that you're constantly molding. You're looking inside this snow globe, so to speak, and molding your business to keep making a better business and constantly making it better. All right, Sean, let's go to our next. We had 3 objectives today, and our next one is really the importance of creating a paperless collaborative firm. And, it sounds great to be able to collaborate in the accounting model in real time. So take, for example, Quickbooks Online. It's designed to be collaborative in nature. The accountant and the client can be in there at the same time, or hosted QuickBooks, the same thing. But if all of our clients take all of their documents and they put them in file cabinets in their office, how collaborative is that? If I pay bills for clients and I'm putting all those paid bills in file cabinets in my office, again, how collaborative is that? We're completely stopped in our firms. If every document that we have or every document that we need to collaborate with our clients on is not in a digital nature, we can't collaborate. Agreed, Sean?
I would definitely agree with that. This is one of the things I think we strive on at your office, is being paperless with the clients to collaborate.
and we see the impact of that when our staff gets ready to do something, whether it's access to a bank statement to get ready to reconcile, or access to credit card statements to reconcile those, or just looking up, copies of contracts or invoices. If we can put those in a shared environment, then our staff, our clients can collaborate in real time. So this is a key third component of this. So the first was to create our vision, create our business model. Second one is to pick our solutions that fit that business model. And the third is really this idea of creating this paperless collaborative environment. So Sean, let's take a look at some of the solutions that are available in this space. The first one, and is one that's been around now for a few years, is SmartVault. SmartVault is a, it's a toolbar that fits inside of QuickBooks and allows you to have QuickBooks be paperless. I realize there's an attached feature in QuickBooks, and we'll get to that in a minute. But SmartVault's sort of an independent company that can live in the cloud environment, and so it can live in a hosted model, and allows your clients and you to see documents in real time. So I think this is a great tool and a good option for getting your clients collaborative. The next one is the idea of maybe using the QuickBooks Attach feature. So some of the vendors, go ahead and go to the next one, Sean. Some of the hosted vendors, and the one that I work a lot with is Right Networks, recently implemented something called TS Scan. So that's really, I believe it stands for Terminal Service Scan. It allows, if you think about taking QuickBooks and putting it out in a hosted environment, and now you have a local scanner, the question is, how do those two pieces of technology talk together? And the way that happens is through this application called TS Scan. So it allows you to have hosted QuickBooks out in the cloud, and if you choose just to use the QuickBooks Attach features, which I think have been very, very functional and have done a great job with that in the last few years, Intuit has, you can just click Scan and Attach straight into the QuickBooks file. So I think we have some images of that, coming up here next, Sean. So let's go to the next one. There's an image, inside of, and again, this is the latest version of QuickBooks, but inside there you can see we have the attach file up there at the top. And, by clicking on that, you can scan directly into QuickBooks out into the cloud from a local scanner. And so that's a great solution. I think even on the next page, the next slide, Sean, we give another image of the document that's attached. And there's multiple ways you can pull that in. You can either grab them from your computer or from your scanner. So 2 ways so far that we've discussed about keeping desktop QuickBooks that's in a hosted environment paperless. Now, granted, one of the keys here is creating the education material or the education forum or platform to teach your clients to use this stuff and get them using it. If you don't get them using it and your staff doesn't use it, then it's not going to work. Let's go on, Sean, and talk about QuickBooks Online just a moment. The QuickBooks Online Accountant, I think, is a product that's coming on really strong. We see great opportunities for that in Root & Associates in our firm in 2013. I believe it's cost effective, it's very collaborative, and let's just talk through some of the bullet points there, Sean. But it is a great fit for some clients. Certainly that service-based business, that smaller business, it's a really good fit. Younger people for sure love the idea of any browser, anytime, anywhere access to their accounting records. Let's keep going, Sean. The ability to be paperless with QuickBooks Online, though, was a challenge until recently. And we're going to talk about how SmartVault released just a couple of months ago the ability to now have QBO be paperless. And I think it really helps advance QBO. Also, let's go ahead and go to the next one, Sean, there. The ability to, we're hoping to see at some point the ability that the accountant in QBOA is going to be able to set up clients in the future. I have no inside information. I don't know anything about that, but this is a a functionality I'd certainly love to see as a managing partner root associate is the ability to go into QBO and set up a client right on the spot. That would be really helpful for me. So certainly, if anybody from Intuit's listening, please take my suggestion there. I'm sure they've heard it before. Let's see what else we have, Sean. I also, in an accounting firm of more than one, the ability to, once I do set up a client, to assign them to a staff person would be another great feature. So again, hopefully in the future we'll see something along this line. And then I think, what else do we have left, Sean? My point here is, for years and years and years, we've been getting really good at QuickBooks Desktop. I believe in 2013, if you haven't done it already, now's the time that we have to start getting really proficient with QuickBooks Online, because I believe it is the future. In my discussions with people at Intuit and having published some articles and interviewing Brad Smith this past year, the CEO of Intuit, Intuit's investing heavily in QBO, and I believe it's probably the future, not probably, it is the future of where our clients are going to live. I don't believe QuickBooks Desktop's going away or in a hosted environment anytime soon, but I believe we have to take the time to get good at QBO. So Sean, let's go ahead. I want to show everybody that probably has not seen this so far, the new attach feature for QBO. So you'll notice over here to the right that we have this little paper clip and the little folder with the one next to it shows there's a document in here, and then there's an inbox. So what SmartVault has done is they've done a brilliant job of creating this floating toolbar that lives inside of a browser, so QBO as an example, and allows you to attach documents to any transaction in there. And this is going to be a huge help, Sean, don't you think?
I do think so, because yeah, we were looking for a paperless option, and so this is definitely a pretty good option within QBO.
I think the idea of moving your clients to the cloud and then telling them to put things back in a file cabinet is not satisfactory. And so now we have this great option to take QBO, have an attach feature, be completely paperless in the clouds, and really move our client base forward. I think I have a few other screenshots of that to show people as well, Sean. So that first one shows the floating toolbar. This shows, you can just actually drag and drop a document right into the SmartVault. When I click the attach button, you can just browse and grab a document, put it in there. The next screenshot, Sean, shows that once you have put something in there, whether it's from your scanner or from just drag and drop, it shows that there's a document in there now and attached to that. So whenever I go back to that bill, it shows me there's a document there. And then I think, do we have one more screenshot of that, Sean? When I actually click to look at that document, it presents that document in a browser as well. So pretty cool stuff, I think. So with that in mind, Sean, what we've sort of talked about, we don't have a lot of time left here, but we've talked about creating this vision, building out our platform, only taking clients and putting clients into the system that we build, and making sure that system, that collaborative system, is paperless. Tell me what I've missed, Sean, or what your thoughts are.
I think you covered it, especially on the in the bookkeeping side, the standards that we would recommend, for setting clients up and bringing on new clients is building that process, defining your process and building it, and limiting kind of what you're offering within the firm as far as systems that you're supporting. So I do believe you covered it pretty well.
Sean, one of your core areas for years has been payroll and paperless payroll and solutions around that. I mean, there's nothing we've talked about in the bookkeeping and write-up realm that can't be duplicated in the payroll realm, is there?
No, as long as you have a system in place for payroll that can handle the type of industry that you're targeting, everything can be duplicated across multiple clients and made very standard. So that way, payroll can be a very, very profitable service that you offer.
So, in most small accounting firms anyway, Sean, we're looking at bookkeeping services, we're looking at write-up services, and I define the difference between those two as bookkeeping is we actually in the firm are really creating the original source transaction, like paying a bill. And write-up is where the client's really creating that, and we're acting more in a support role. We have annual clients, and then we have payroll clients, and that covers most of my client base from a business perspective. In our firm, we don't do audits, and so that's not an area that we deal with. But in all those items that we just talked about, we can certainly build a collaborative online delivery system, including payroll, to deliver to all those clients.
All right. Be paperless.
Sean, what advice? I mean, you're on the phone every day with firms, when they're trying to head down this path. What stumbling blocks are you seeing firms running into as they try to do this? And I hate to put you on the spot, but what do you see?
The biggest thing I think people stumble with is right at the beginning is creating what you do, like just finding what you do, and then building all the infrastructure for that before you start marketing and selling those services to clients. So the biggest thing I see is people jump into, this is what we're going to do, and we start telling clients, but then things in their office are not in place, or they don't have the proper, training or whatever it is for all the different functions that they're doing, what they decided to do in office, and so then they're scrambling to make things work. So the best thing to do is start at the beginning, get your vision, define what you're good at, and then build from there, build the infrastructure, and then present this to clients, because then you have it down pat, and it's a lot easier to have the machine in the office just going, instead of kind of scrambling for each client that comes in. How are we going to do this?
So what you see then, let me just say this back, is, and this is probably how this has happened, Sean, somebody's come to an event that I've given a presentation, my next generation accounting firm presentation which encompasses some of this information. And they've said, wow, that makes sense. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this. And their first step is, wow, I'm just going to start getting clients on this. And they haven't taken the time to master the model yet. They haven't built the infrastructure. That's what you're saying, right?
Right. Or even just defining those, like when I said earlier, have two platforms that you support, define what those are going to be, and then they end up with still multiple. It's still the same thing. They're still just kind of scrambling to get the job done. So yeah, definitely.
The thing that I hear from firms, Sean, when I'm talking to them is, I was successful at getting 10 clients in here, and then, I haven't gotten the rest of them. I got 100 that's not in here. I got 50 that's not in there. But boy, those 10 that I got in are pretty efficient. And what happens, I think, is firms, they get busy, they get back into the day-to-day working, and they stop trying to keep pushing their firm forward. Because I'll tell you, Sean, I'm really diligent about not taking clients on that don't fit our model.
Right.
And a friend of mine, Greg LaFollette, used to be the executive editor of CPA Technology Advisor, and now is running product strategy for the CPA to Biz, said taking on a client that does not fit your core service model is the most expensive client that you'll take on, because once you get a model built and you get your staff used to that, if you take on something that doesn't fit, it feels like oil and water at that point in time. Today, if you take on a client that doesn't fit, that's just what you normally do. But if you take the time to build a model and you get really efficient, what you're going to find is your staff doesn't want to work in a system that is not well defined anymore, if you know what I mean. Would you agree with that, Sean?
I definitely would agree with that. And the other thing that it will create is staff might not be as effective in that matter. They're spending more time doing research and doing other work just to get that individual job done. So it definitely costs more money to have that.
But it certainly goes. It goes back to that sort of that study CCH did, which was 40% of a staff person's time is spent looking for information. One of my favorite quotes that I get when I'm out doing a session is I ask how many people are paperless, and usually more than half the room raises their hand and say that they're half. They're part paperless and part paper. And I just can never understand where you find anything if you don't have a system that either makes you all paper or all paperless. Being halfway is always a challenge. Being halfway with half your clients in a system, the other half not in a system, to me presents its own set of challenges, whether it's hosted, half collaborative and half non-collaborative. So the goal here is really to define your model and move your firm all in. Don't move halfway in. So Sean, we're about out of time. I've got just a couple of minutes left. Any closing thoughts that you have for everybody, words of wisdom?
I think the biggest thing is, and I'm going to just repeat it again, is just define that model, what you're going to do, no matter what system it is, stick with it. When you start wavering, that's when, for individual clients, that's when the efficiency just goes to the floor. So
yeah.
Just sticking with the model is the key.
A lot of firms, Sean, we do presentations, the first thing they want us to do is get into the technologies. But we always start with the model. If you don't take the time to do that, as you said, the rest of it just doesn't really help a lot. So,
right.
Well, Sean, thanks for taking an hour out of your day. I appreciate it. You're up near Detroit. You guys getting any snow today?
Today it's nice and sunny, and it's melting the snow, which is a nice thing to see.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're running out of time. I know that we are going to go into a chat room here in just a few minutes. So at the top of the hour, we'll be in a chat room, and people will be able to ask questions, and I'll stay online for the next 45 minutes doing my best to answer those questions. So, Sean, thanks again. I want to thank everyone for attending today. And we'll take a couple of minutes, and I'll be back online in a chat room. So with that, Donna, I don't know if you have anything that you need to add, or if you've sent out a chat and told everybody already.
Hi, everyone. I have posted something in the chat window. You feel free to click on the bottom link to the LinkedIn group, and we will be posting your questions, and Darren will be answering in our group. So we hope to see your comments there. Thanks so much for attending.
Great.
And we will follow up with an email and survey.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. And Sean, thank you again.
Yep, take care.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.